Welcome to Immigration Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: Australians lose nearly $1 billion a year in card surcharges and the RBA has warned banks it has to stop. Column: Horner dodges through messy F1 opening amid leaked evidence, Verstappen's father, fan flames. Robert Jenrick: mass migration has made integration impossible. Biden has to go on the offense on immigration and not let Republicans divide us, Senator Murphy says. Wells Fargo slowly starts to shed the problems of its past. Australians lose nearly $1 billion a year in card surcharges and the RBA has warned banks it has to stop. ABC. Australians are losing $960 million Australian dollars, $631 million, annually in surcharges when they pay with a card instead of cash, according to data from the Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA. The UK and the EU have banned card surcharges, but Australian retailers are allowed to recoup payment costs via surcharges as long as they do not profit from them. Analysis shows the average cost of an electronic funds transfer at point of sale (EFTPOS) transaction is 30 cents, 20 cents, for a $100 purchase, while it is 50 cents for Visa and MasterCard debit transactions. The average cost for MasterCard and Visa credit card transactions is 0.9% and 1.7% for Diners Club cards. The RBA has introduced an initiative called Least Cost Routing, LCR, to reduce card processing costs for businesses, but the take-up is slow, with only 64% of business terminals enabled with LCR. Column: Horner dodges through messy F1 opening amid leaked evidence, Verstappen's father, fan flames. Associated Press. Christian Horner, the team principal of Formula One team Red Bull Racing, has been cleared of allegations of misconduct by a team employee. Horner has denied wrongdoing from the start, but despite the matter being closed, evidence was sent anonymously to over 100 F1 industry members during the second practice of the season opening race in Bahrain. Red Bull Racing has refused to discuss the investigation or disclose the internal report that cleared Horner, leading to calls for transparency from other teams and sponsors. However, the FIA has said that it is not investigating Horner due to a lack of complaints, and neither F1 nor Liberty Media have commented on the situation. Red Bull Racing has denied any issues within the team and says it is focused on racing. Jos Verstappen, father of Red Bull driver Max Verstappen, has publicly called for Horner to be removed, saying that the team will explode if he remains in position. Robert Jenrick: mass migration has made integration impossible. Telegraph. Former Home Office Minister Robert Jenrick has claimed that high levels of immigration have made it impossible for people to integrate into British society. He argued that a naive policy of mass migration has led to the breeding of Islamist extremism and anti-Semitism. Jenrick called for immigration numbers to be cut to tens of thousands and criticized the police for being too passive in their response to pro-Palestine protests. He also said that the UK has a problem with Islamist extremism and called for a national conversation and strategy to tackle it. Biden has to go on the offense on immigration and not let Republicans divide us, Senator Murphy says. Yahoo! Senator Chris Murphy is urging President Joe Biden and his fellow Democrats to go on the offense on immigration after a bipartisan border deal he helped negotiate was tanked by Republicans, led by former President Donald Trump, who called it insufficient. Edmonton man worried about limited application slots for bringing family from war-torn Sudan. CBC. Modathir Bashir, a Sudanese-Canadian living in Edmonton, Canada, is facing a difficult decision. He can only afford to bring one of his sisters, along with her 4 children, to Canada to escape the civil war in Sudan. The Canadian government has created a program to allow Canadians to bring their families to safety, but the applications are capped at 3,250. Bashir believes this is not enough to help all those who need it. He is advocating for the government to increase the number of applications allowed and waive the application fees. A bigger pool of American workers could continue to slow inflation even further. CNN. The U.S. Federal Reserve's battle against inflation could be aided by a larger labor force, which would slow inflation and potentially lead to a soft landing scenario, according to economists. The labor force participation rate dropped sharply at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic as people retired early or stopped working due to fears of contracting the virus. However, participation increased last year, with 2022 and 2023 seeing the strongest consecutive years of labor force growth since the 1980s. This increase in labor supply has reduced pressure on wages and labor costs, allowing employers to hire more workers and put more money in consumers' pockets. While there is still room for improvement, economists are uncertain whether these gains will be enough to bring inflation all the way down to the Fed's 2% target. They suggest that labor supply may only have an incremental impact on inflation this year, and that weaker demand, which the Fed aims to achieve through interest rate hikes, may play a larger role in reining in inflation. How a baby elephant at center court sparked a long-standing tradition for the Raptors and its superfan. The Toronto Star. Canadian businessman and Raptors superfan Nev Bhatia has published a memoir entitled The Heart of a Superfan. In it he discusses his love for the Raptors basketball team and how using the sport has helped him change people's perceptions of the Sikh community in Canada. Bhatia explains that after being mistaken for a taxi driver by a white man while at a phone repair store, he began to think about how he could challenge the stereotype of Sikhs only being taxi drivers, truck drivers, and gas station attendants. He decided to turn to his beloved Raptors for help. Bhatia approached the team's management with the idea of hosting Vaisakhi Day at halftime. He wanted to celebrate the Sikh New Year in a big way and asked for 3,000 tickets to sell. The management was unsure, but Bhatia was confident he could fill the seats. The event was a success and Bhatia used it to bring children of all backgrounds together, allowing them to integrate and realize they have more in common than they think. This tradition has continued, and Bhatia has also helped organize Diwali nights with the team. NYC high schooler helps start soccer clinic for migrant kids. Yahoo! A high school student in Brooklyn has found a way to combine her love for soccer with her passion for helping others. Emilia Vasquez, a sophomore at St. Joseph High School, has started a fundraising campaign to support asylum seekers in the United States. She is using her soccer skills to offer training sessions in exchange for donations to the cause. Vasquez, who plays on her school's varsity soccer team, plans to use the funds raised to support organizations that provide legal assistance, housing, and other resources to asylum seekers. She hopes to not only raise money but also raise awareness about the challenges faced by asylum seekers. Vasquez's initiative has already gained attention on social media, with many people expressing their support and admiration for her efforts. Trump deflects anti-democracy criticism, accuses Biden of conspiring against U.S. Washington Post. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has accused President Joe Biden, without evidence, of conspiring against America. The comments were made at a rally as Trump faces 91 charges across 4 criminal cases, 2 of which relate to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. Trump has denied any wrongdoing, seeking to portray the cases as politically motivated. Gazans crowdfund thousands for uncertain escape. BBC. As the Israeli bombardments and food shortages in Gaza continue, more and more Palestinians are desperately seeking a way out. Many are turning to online crowdfunding campaigns to raise the thousands of dollars needed to escape via the Rafah crossing to Egypt. However, these campaigns are often plagued by chaos, confusion, and scammers. The price to get on the list to leave ranges from $6,000 to over $12,000, depending on who you talk to. Once the money is raised, it must be sent to someone outside of Gaza who can then withdraw the cash and travel to Egypt to wait in a long line at the offices of Hala Travel. Finally, the approved names are published online, and those on the list must leave the same day. However, due to spotty Wi-Fi and rolling blackouts, some people miss their window and have to repeat the entire process, including paying again. The online crowdfunding campaigns are being led by friends and relatives who live abroad and want to help loved ones escape the violence. However, these campaigns often face obstacles, with fundraising accounts being frozen and PayPal accounts locked without explanation. Many campaigners have complained about delays and had to resort to legal threats to get a response. The situation is desperate, with people risking their lives to escape the bombardments and food shortages. The crowdfunding campaigns have been successful in raising large sums, but the process of actually getting the money to those who need it is fraught with difficulties and obstacles. The small-town mayor, the death trap barge and the Aussie company's $3.2 billion black hole. The Sydney Morning Herald. Corporate travel management's controversial role in the UK's immigration policy could be brought to an end if the mayor of Portland, Carolyn Parks, wins her legal battle. Corporate travel management had signed a £1.6 billion, $3.2 billion, deal in April 2020 to manage the facility where migrants were being housed on an accommodation barge. However, Portland's mayor argued that housing vulnerable people on a barge was inhumane. The contract has already been downgraded following the failure of the UK deal, resulting in a 20% drop in the company's share price. Chess Federation threatens to pull prestigious tournament from Toronto if Canada doesn't quickly grant access to Russian, Indian, and other players. The Toronto Star. Visa issues for chess players from Russia, India, and 2 other countries could force the relocation of the world's most prestigious chess tournament from Toronto to Spain. The tournament, which is set to take place from April 3 to 22, was intended to inspire a new generation of Canadian chess players. The delay in issuing visas is unprecedented, and if progress is not made by the end of next week, Canada may lose its hosting rights. The cause of the delay is unknown, but the strained relations between Canada and Russia and India could be a factor. Brian Mulroney's larger-than-life role was evident in lesser-known events, issues and people. The Toronto Star. An op-ed piece in the Toronto Star has praised former Canadian Prime Minister Brian Mulroney for his role in shaping contemporary multicultural Canada. The article claims that Mulroney played a key role in increasing immigration to record levels, setting up the Immigration and Refugee Board, initiating an official apology to Japanese Canadians for their internment during the Second World War, and arranging compensation for survivors. The author also notes that Mulroney was undeterred by racist backlash when he welcomed 151 Sri Lankan Tamils who had landed in Canada after a 35-day voyage on a cargo ship, and he supported the right of Sikhs to wear turbans in the RCMP, even though this went against public opinion at the time. Migration from South America through the perilous Darien Gap resumes. New York Times. Migration through the Darien Gap has resumed after a 5-day pause. The pause was caused by the arrest of 2 boat captains who were transporting migrants illegally without proper documentation. The boat companies, Catamarans and Caribe, had openly been transporting migrants for years. The arrest of the captains marked a shift in policy by Colombian authorities, who had been under pressure from the U.S. to limit or stop migration through the Darien. The boat companies paused transport in retaliation for the arrests, leading to thousands of migrants waiting in the towns of Necoclí and Turbo. The boat companies have now resumed operations following a meeting with local governments, the Colombian National Migration Office, and a representative from the U.S. Embassy in Colombia. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.